On Ashford Street, the lost and found lives between a shoe repair and a patient window. When an item returns to its owner, a cream card is clipped to it like a polite ransom note. Each card adds a rule the city did not have yesterday. Entry 1, Monday, early spring, the bell that asks for two. The sign on the glass says ring twice, then wait. I obeyed because bells like ceremony. Inside, a tray labeled keys today held 7 clusters of teeth and opinions. A brass date stamp slept beside an ink pad the color of reliable plums. The clerk, Anna Whitmore, lifted a ledger and wrote my name with a pencil that never panics. I set a scarf on the counter, red with a fringe that behaves. I had found it near Willowbrook Café where the chalkboard was arguing gently with the weather. Anna examined the scarf with the gravity of a librarian faced with a noisy book. She stamped a card and clipped it to the fringe. Rule added, she said, sliding the card toward me so I could read. Do not run for the tram when you can wave. That seems gentler than a law, I said. We collect gentle laws, she said. People obey them because they recognize their handwriting. She placed the scarf in a clean paper bag, wrote return when ready in pencil across the top, and rang the bell once as punctuation. On the walk home, the tram arrived at the corner in no mood to be chased. I waved. The driver smiled with his eyes and opened the door. Inside, someone gave up a seat without needing to be taught. The rule had entered the day with good shoes. Entry 2, Tuesday, late morning. Keys with opinions, a second rule. I returned with a small metal rectangle found on Cedar Lane's landing. It turned out to be a locker key, tidy and convinced of purpose. Anna weighed it in her palm as if listening for its story. The bell at the door gave one companionable note, then remembered itself and added the second. Locker 31, Anna said. It belongs to the pool. People put their breath in there pretending it is a towel. She stamped a card. The thump sounded like a firm period. The new rule read, do not speak a person's full name while angry. She clipped the card to the key with a brass paper clip that looked like wisdom that learned to bend. We will call the pool, she said. The key knows water, and water knows the truth about volume. I took tea without sugar at Willowbrook. Tom Aldridge wrote on the chalkboard, rules accepted here, please return with stories, and drew a small chair beside the words. I placed the card on the counter and read it again. My mouth softened at the last word. Angry names always become stones. Rules prefer softer tools. Back at Cedar Lane, Superintendent David Blackwood tightened a hinge on 2 and nodded at the card. Noted, he said. Names behave better when they were first names only. He wrote David on a bit of tape for his toolbox because rules like to begin at home. Entry 3, Wednesday, dusk. A wallet and a warning about pockets. In the tram, I found a slim wallet that perfumed the air with clean leather and mild disaster. Inside waited a library card, a transit pass, 3 receipts with their dramatic size, and nothing else. I carried it to the lost and found and rang twice like a responsible citizen who enjoys chimes. Anna stamped and clipped and slid the card forward. Do not keep unclaimed coins longer than a breath, it read. Coins want circulation, so do apologies. The owner arrived with a face that knew how to believe in relief. He read the card, smiled like a new student, and left a thank you in the ledger that did not require adjectives. I traced the stamped date. It looked like 17 crisp thumps arranged into a calendar that trusted us. On my way out, I saw a chalk dot on the doorframe, white as patient weather. Someone had drawn it at shoulder height. Marina from the night pharmacy says chalk survives in the city because rain respects it. I touched the dot, and the day agreed to try again. Entry 4, Thursday, late. The pen with a grudge, my first personal rule. Thursday taught me that rules will find the hand that needs them. I brought a fountain pen that had taken a vow of silence near Willowbrook's corner table. Its barrel was engraved with initials large enough to explain. Anna rolled the pen across the counter, watched how it resisted gravity, and stamped a card. Do not edit a person while they are still speaking, it read. Wait the length of tea. She clipped it to the pen and looked at me with librarian eyes. This one is not only for the owner, she said. The room voted. On the walk to Cedar Lane, the pen's rule followed me like a kind dog. I rode the elevator and counted the floors as if the car would grade my cadence. At the landing between 1 and 2, I met a neighbor rehearsing a complaint. I opened my mouth to tidy his sentences and then sipped my patience instead. After the length of tea, The complaint had become a question. Questions are lighter to carry. I wrote the rule in my notebook and underlined wait. The underlining made a sound like a fabric marker discovering cotton. Entry 5, Friday, noon. The glass button. The bureau refuses spectacle. The item that arrived next seemed to want attention. A glass button, clear, convex, I like, lay alone in my pocket, found near the bench that watches Ashford Street pretend to be a river. It felt like the kind of object writers put in stories so that shadows have something to do. I placed it on the counter with too much performance for a room that prefers folding. Anna smiled carefully and stamped a card smaller than usual. Do not harvest mystery for applause, it read. Return it to the bench. I obeyed because the bench has seniority over my ego. I set the button where the grain makes a horizon and pressed it with the pad of my finger as if anchoring a quiet guest book. I counted to 17 with the names of chairs I trust. A child climbed up and sat beside me as if I had done something ordinary but correct. The button belonged to the view and the rule belonged to me. I exhaled, lighter by one sentence. Entry 6, Saturday, after rain. The rule cards multiply, a ledger of bands. Saturday, the tray overflowed. A silk hair tie, a passport photo, a single glove, a pocket notebook with a tooth mark, 3 orphaned earrings in agreement, and a rolled-up poster that had decided to be cylindrical forever. Each item received a card with a band we had not considered before. Do not measure every kindness against your calendar. Do not ring once when you mean twice. Do not move a chair someone placed for a reason. Do not borrow the word always unless you can return it. People came in hesitant and left with bags that weighed the same but felt wiser. Some rules stayed general. Some arrived with a specific address. One card read, do not skip step 17 on Cedar Lane stairs. David nodded again when I showed him and tapped the landing with his screwdriver like a conductor checking the pitch of air. Willowbrook adopted the practice by accident. Tom placed a bowl labeled rule cards and invited people to borrow them like napkins. By evening, the bowl was half empty and the chalkboard read, ban, adding sugar to news. People sipped tea without sugar and discovered the news had never needed sweetening. It had needed folding. Entry 7, Sunday, just after opening. The inversion begins. I had believed that rules attached to items to instruct owners. Sunday questioned that assumption with librarian patience. A man returned for a hat he had mislaid. Anna clipped a card to it. Do not speak over a whisper near someone learning. He read it and nodded, then looked at the child beside him with permission in his face. But when I reached for my own bag, I found a card tucked under the strap, though I had not checked anything in. Do not narrate someone else's apology, it read. I looked up at Anna. She tilted her head toward the tray as if to say, the Bureau assigns rules to anyone who lingered in the radius of a return. I wrote the rule in my notebook and underlined someone else. The underlining sounded like a pencil admitting it had opinions. At the night pharmacy, Marina added a small sign. Tuesday's print pause, Sunday's print share. She explained that the register sometimes lends us words if we promise not to weaponize them. The rule card seemed to be borrowing Marina's courage and making it portable. Entry 8, Monday, after midnight. Ledger maintenance, rules versus laws. After midnight, the Bureau hums at the pitch of honest lamps. Anna allowed me to help tidy the rule ledger. We logged the day's editions with titles and brief notes. Do not keep unclaimed coins longer than a breath when under currency. Do not edit a person while they are still speaking, joined conversation. Do not harvest mystery for applause crouched in story. Anna drew an arrow between story and coins and wrote, same muscle. We talked quietly about the difference between rules and laws. Laws argue about punishment, rules offer posture. They tell you how to stand in a room so it does not have to firm itself against you. The stamp thumped gently 17 times while we arranged entries. Each thump felt like an apology finding the right chair. When I left, the bell rang twice with grateful metal. I took the long way down Ashford Street and saluted the bench. The glass button was still there, now a tiny planet that had decided to orbit the afternoon instead of a narrative. I slept with the window cracked, and the city proofread my better self. Entry 9, Tuesday, late afternoon. The rule that was about me. I returned a worn leather journal found near Willowbrook. The first page held a pencil circle like a little moon. Anna stamped and clipped. Do not explain what quiet is doing, the card said. She looked at me, and I felt the way laundry feels when it has been folded with love and now has to remember how to be used. On Cedar Lane, David knelt with a screwdriver that sings and taught a hinge to retire from drama. "We could use a rule about doors," he said without looking up. I handed him the journal's card. He read it and laughed softly. "It applies," he said. "Quiet is negotiating with this door. We will not narrate." We stood together for the length of tea while the door taught itself a calmer angle. Later, at Willowbrook, Tom drew a rectangle on the chalkboard and wrote inside this box, "Rest," with an arrow. The box contained nothing but the invitation. People understood. Entry 10, Wednesday, early. The band that looked like love. A woman brought a ring in a small envelope with a breath inside. "Found near the river," she said, then sighed. Anna clipped a card gently and slid it back. "Do not practice forever in public," it said. The woman exhaled longer and nodded. "We were rehearsing too loud," she said. She did not say "we" again. Some cards are bandages for pronouns. I left with a borrowed card in my pocket. "Do not collect other people's endings." I meant to return it within the hour and discovered, as many do, that borrowed rules prefer to stay until they have done their job. I used it to refrain from narrating a couple's silence at Willowbrook. I returned it to the bowl after tea without sugar, and the bowl seemed to accept the shape of my restraint. Objects learn from touch. Bowls learn from returns. Entry 11, late Wednesday. The inversion arrives fully. It happened while I sorted umbrellas by color because the day demanded small order. A man rushed in with panic wrapped around his voice. "My daughter's scarf," he said. "Red with fringe." I fetched the paper bag with the rule card that had started the week. He read, "Do not run for the tram when you can wave," and pressed his lips together. His hands had the weight of a person carrying an important mistake. He whispered, "We ran." I pointed to the card and then to the door. "Try waving," I said. The tram was already gone. He went outside anyway and lifted his hand toward the empty tracks with the humility of a student who showed up late and plans to learn. A driver returning from break saw him, smiled with his whole body, and raised a hand in return. The father's shoulders dropped into a safer season. The scarf resumed being only a scarf, and the rule resumed being only a sentence. The inversion was obvious now. The cards were not punishments, but rehearsals for kinder behavior. They prepared the room for the return, and the return prepared the person for the room. I shelved the umbrellas. The bell rang twice as if to say, "You are catching on." Entry 12, Thursday, without a date. A ban on hoarding bans. The Bureau corrects me. I wrote a little speech about the beauty of rule cards. I planned to read it at Willowbrook like a mild sermon that could be interrupted by tea. The Bureau refused. A customer brought in a single earring that glittered only when seen sideways. Anna stamped a card and, without looking up, slid it across the counter to me. "Do not turn rules into trophies." The sentence arrived like a coat that fit better than my pride. I folded my speech into a small square and returned it to the idea drawer. "Rules like to work, not to be admired," Anna said. "They grow brittle when displayed." She placed the earring in a dish labeled, "Waiting for the other half." The dish had once been a butter plate. Hospitality recycles well. Entry 13, Friday, after midnight. The quietest prohibition. The night pharmacy door rang twice like a careful heart. Marina handed me a bag with tea and a sticky note that read, "Pause first." A boy in a hood waited behind me, clutching a small notebook in a different kind of emergency. I stepped aside and counted breaths instead of seconds. The receipt printer purred and wrote the word that means chair on Tuesdays. It was not Tuesday. The room borrowed the habit because the night had been loud. The boy left calmer, notebook hugged like a new rule that demanded no signature. On the way to Cedar Lane, I stopped by the bureau to leave a card I had found under my own doormat. It read, "Do not assume your keys are only keys." I did not understand, so I obeyed. At home, I placed my keys on the table and looked at them until they looked like responsibility instead of metal. The door to my building sighed, as if retiring from a long argument with weather. I slept as if someone had turned down the contrast on the city. Entry 14, Saturday, early. The ledger of unjustified bans. In the morning, I helped Anna audit the rules that had not pulled their weight. "Some sentences arrive hungry for authority," she said, "and we send them home." We made a list titled "Bans Sent Back." "Do not laugh loudly by the river." We returned. "The river has earned laughter." "Do not take the last cookie." We returned. Scarcity makes bullies. Do not leave notes without names. We returned. Some notes need anonymity to be brave. The stamp thumped only lightly on these entries as if giving them a chance to find new homes. We kept, do not speak a person's full name while angry. We kept, do not edit a person while they are still speaking. We kept, do not move a chair someone placed for a reason. We kept, do not narrate someone else's apology. The city nodded. Doors behaved. People breathed at the correct height for forgiveness. Entry 15, Sunday, early summer. Soft closing. The rule I will keep. The week taught me to carry smaller, kinder laws that do not punish. I brought the ledger a final item. A picture book left at Willowbrook with crayon underlining and a determined bookmark. Anna stamped a card and clipped it before I could blink. Do not finish someone else's chapter, it read. The owner came in 20 minutes later, a grandparent with a map of patience on their face. The rule made them smile in the way history teaches. They carried the book out like a torch that prefers to be a night light. I borrowed one card for myself. Do not hoard the bell. I walked Ashford Street and let other people ring twice. The bell performed without me, which is healthy. I sat on the bench by the glass button and practiced not explaining the sky to the sky. Back at Cedar Lane, I wrote in this diary, rules are furniture. You sit in them so others do not have to hold you up. Closing. If you find a thing on Ashford Street, scarf, key, ring, a sentence someone dropped in public, bring it to the lost and found that hides between patience and shoes. When they clip the card to the return, read the rule and try on its posture. Many bans are only permissions disguised as care. Many cares are only sentences that needed to be written where a hand could see them. Ring twice. Wait. Return when ready. Tag. Do not keep what wants circulation. Addenda. Field notes from the lost and found. The stamp and its moods. The date stamp has 3 voices. Light for rules that ask politely. Firm for bans that have earned their authority. Almost silent for sentences that want to leave quietly. 17 thumps make a respectable afternoon. The ink pad smells like responsible fruit. The rule cards, paper and clip. Cards are cream, cut by hand, edges not perfect. A tiny line of saffron ink along the border warns the eye that play is allowed. Clips are brass, never steel. Brass forgives. Steel insists. We prefer forgiveness. How rules choose people. Some cards go home with the item. Some tuck themselves into a stranger's pocket near the counter. Some appear under a cup at Willowbrook or on the landing at Cedar Lane. We do not chase. The city distributes posture better than we could. Ledger excerpts, anonymized. Returned a hat. Learned to wave. Gave up a seat. Discovered knees enjoy obedience. Folded a map. Returned the crease to humility. Held the door. Kept the drama. Did not narrate an apology. The room said thanks by staying smaller. Manual. How to borrow a rule correctly. 1. Read it once for the words and once for the music. 2. Try it on in a small room before wearing it to the public square. 3. If it pinches, ask if the pinch is pride. 4. Return it with a story in the ledger. Stories keep edges smooth. 5. Do not gift a rule like a trophy. Bring it like tea. 6. If 2 rules conflict, choose the one that reduces your volume. 7. If none apply, sit. Chairs have their own grammar. Vignettes. Things that came back with better manners. A tote bag with a card. Do not advertise generosity. The owner took the bus quietly. A set of earbuds with a card. Do not seal yourself from announcements. The tram stop heard fewer sprints. A water bottle with a card. Do not borrow thirst for attention. The cafe line trimmed its speeches. A camera with a card. Do not photograph people who are busy being human. The river reflected permission. A pair of shoes with a card. Do not arrive loudly to grief. The church steps looked taller. Correspondence with other counters. The night pharmacy prints pause on Tuesdays. Willowbrook offers a 17th chair that does not belong to any table. The hotel elevator hides a corridor for returns. The bureau writes bans that are really invitations. We share supplies. Paper bans that read return when ready circulate, like currency with better health. A conversation with a ban that almost became a law. Do not speak to strangers, it proposed. We returned it with edits. Do not speak to strangers as if you own the air. It sighed, shed weight, and joined the tray. It learned to work. How to write a rule. Write what the day forgot. Aim for 7 to 12 words. If you must write 17, include a comma and forgiveness. Avoid always and never, the loud cousins of helpful. If you write not, make sure you mean care. Read the sentence out loud to the bell. If the bell rings once, revise. If twice, clip. If thrice, nap. A small ethics of found money. Unclaimed coins move. Let them. If you find a handful bound by paper, return the band with a sentence. The Bureau's ledger includes a section titled Metal with Ideas. Its entries end with arrows pointing to people rather than pockets. What to do when your name appears. It will. A card will say, "Do not talk about the Bureau in a way that ruins it," or "Do not forget to lift with your knees," or "Do not ask for credit. Accept the correction like a glass of water. Drink. Do not frame the card. Give it work." Postscript. On days without fines. Bring nothing. Read the ledger. Clean the stamp. Make tea without sugar. Sit by the window and practice letting the city return of its own accord. Not every day requires new rules. Some days require old ones to settle into bone. Appendix. The register of bands I keep at home. Do not ring once. Do not edit while someone speaks. Do not move a chair placed by another. Do not narrate someone else's apology. Do not run for the tram when waving will do. Do not hoard the bell. Do not keep unclaimed coins longer than a breath. Do not harvest mystery for applause. Do not finish someone else's chapter. Do not collect other people's endings. If this list grows heavy, I will return it. The Bureau lends posture, not weight. Supplement. Case notes and longer scenes. Case 1. The umbrella debate. 2 umbrellas arrived in a single hand. One was patterned with cheerful weather it could not cause. The other was gray with a memory of storms. Anna clipped a single card for both. Do not mistake tools for personality. The owners returned at different hours, and both smiled the same. The cheerful umbrella did not pretend to be kind. The gray one did not pretend to be tragic. The street accepted rain and let the tram speak in its metal voice. Case 2. The note on the bench. I found a folded paper by the glass buttons bench. Inside, a sentence had been abandoned mid-thought. We stamped a card. Do not adopt other people's half-sentences. We filed the paper in the drawer labeled pending weather and the card in the bowl. Later, a person came in, cheeks rehearsing forgiveness. They asked for the note. We handed it back with the rule. They finished the sentence in the lobby and left it there to breathe. Lobby air likes modest endings. Case 3. The out-of-town wallet. A traveler showed a map that insisted on the wrong river. His wallet had been found, returned, and re-tagged. Do not scold a city for not matching your map. He laughed with a decent octave of humility. He took the tram in the right direction without making the driver a metaphor. Case 4. The shoe that limped. A single shoe arrived with a card that wrote itself, "Do not rush ahead of your other half." The owner limped in, reading the line before noticing the shoe. He sat. He waited. His other half arrived smiling and cursing weather that had not kept up. They tied laces calmly. The bell approved by being normal. Case 5. The phone that learned to rest. A phone, found near Willowbrook sugar packets, came with, "Do not wake a person to deliver news without weight." The owner set his notifications to breathe. In the next chair, a teenager performed relief like a quiet instrument. Tom underlined pause on the chalkboard and then erased the underline because underlines can become laws. Extended ledger, returns, and what they taught. Returned a recipe card. Learned that recipes are love letters willing to be plagiarized kindly. Returned a pocket knife. Learned to open packages slower. Returned a scarf. Learned to wave. Returned a badge. Learned to use first names. Returned a stone. Learned that pockets are museums when they need to be. Returned a pencil. Learned that pencils prefer whispers to shouts. Returned a tram ticket. Learned that journeys enjoy second chances. Dialogue with a rule that refused to work. Do not sit on the floor, it suggested. We tested it near the bureau when the chairs were full. The floor welcomed us, and the rule blushed into paper. We edited, "Do not take up more space than you're quiet," and the card agreed to be useful. Practice sheet, counting without numbers. Name 17 neighbors who taught you to wait. List 17 chairs that fit you. Recall 17 moments the bell rang twice. Imagine 17 trams you did not chase. Press your palm on the counter and feel the wood's old forest count to 17 for you. Closing note to myself. If I leave Ashford Street, I will carry a small stack of cream cards and a brass clip. I will walk through new rooms as if the bureau were hiding there too, between patients and shoes. When I find a thing, I will return it before narrating it. When a rule writes itself on my day, I will clip it to my pride and try to let my posture be the story instead of my mouth. Week 2, borrowed rules and their returns. Monday, the consequence of a kind ban. A courier arrived at opening with a satchel that clicked like coins arguing. Inside were small boxes, all addressed, none labeled. Anna clipped a card to the satchel. Do not demand clarity before you offer help. We sorted the boxes by weight, then by sound, then by the handwriting of hope on each address. The courier learned the route by listening. By noon he moved like a person who had changed adjectives. He returned near closing to drop a thank you note in the ledger. Learn to deliver questions slower. Tuesday, a rule for weather. A folded umbrella leaned against the counter as if bored by dryness. The card said, do not speak of storms as if they owe you drama. It rained later anyway, and the street behaved. People used their umbrellas without becoming the weather, and the weather kept its appointment with the trees. Wednesday, the rumor of a harsher bureau. Someone whispered about a lost and found on another street that issues punishments. Anna placed a hand on the ledger as if soothing paper. We are not that counter, she said. We persuade posture. We do not stage trials. She wrote a rule and never clipped it. Do not seek harsher rooms to feel innocent. We filed it under private guidance. Thursday, the double return. A scarf came back again. It had traveled, been lost, been found, and returned with a new card. Do not treat travel as improvement. The original rule, do not run for the tram when you can wave, was still attached. The owner laughed and clipped both to the same loop. I will be ordinary with honor, he said, which is a sentence cities like to hear. Friday, the card that corrected me politely. I wrote, do not ring once, on a blank card without a reason other than affection for metal. The bureau declined my contribution without hostility. Anna returned my card with a pencil correction. Do not ring once, when two will do. She underlined well. The bell agreed by sounding normal. Saturday, the visit from the hotel clerk. Celia from the Ashford House Hotel brought a tray of keycard sleeves. If a guest returns a thing, she said, we add a sleeve with a rule to carry upstairs. We clipped a card to the tray itself. Do not charge admission to kindness. Celia smiled the way professionals smile when they have been reminded of their vocation's spine. She left with sleeves and a promise to let rules travel by pocket, not by lecture. Sunday, the ledger section for repairs. We added a page titled Repairs that required only rules. A door stopped scolding human backs after hearing, do not leave rooms triumphant. A vending machine chewed less gum after reading, do not trap sweetness for attention. A rug lay flat when told, do not rehearse rebellion where ankles live. We stamped the page firmly. The stamp enjoys being useful without spectacle. Manual for households, hosting a borrowed rule. 1. Place the card where your eyes will not resent it. The fridge works if you most often open it in humility. 2. Tell your people the rule is temporary, like weather. 3. Do not enforce it with volume. Enforce it by modeling posture. 4. When its work is done, clip it to the ledger page titled Returns and write one short line about what changed. 5. If the rule embarrasses you, add for now in pencil to its end. 6. If two rules arrive, host the quieter one first. Interview with the bell, who has been patient. Why 2 rings? Because 1 is a command and 3 is theater. I prefer conversation. Do you judge the people who forget? No. Forgetting creates work for me. I was built for work. Do the cards improve your sound? They improve the room. The room improves me. What rule would you write? Do not ask metal to forgive what you have not yet forgiven yourself. Letters from items, transcribed by a bored volunteer. Scarf. I know the wind's grammar. I do not need speeches. Key. I like circles. I dislike pockets that think they own me. Coin. I am happiest when I am unromantic. Umbrella. Rain is a meeting, not a duel. Pen. I can draw a boundary. You must choose to respect it. Ring. Do not practice forever in public. Propose to quiet. A slightly sterner section, rules with teeth, still gentle. Because you asked for a touch more eeriness, we filed a handful of rules that sound like warnings, but act like care. Do not open a door you closed in anger until air has changed. Do not keep a photograph that convinces you to lie. Do not return to a shop just to prove you were right. Do not borrow the word forever during weather. Do not correct a map while you are still lost. Field notes on how rules fade. Some cards lose their verbs after a week and become blank suggestions. We keep them as coasters for cups of tea without sugar. Blank cards teach people to supply their own care. We let them. A night audit. The sound of paper clips. After closing, I sorted clips by whether they had learned a new curve. Clips holding the heavier bands had subtle stress marks near the elbow. Brass forgives. It also remembers. I whispered thanks and rotated their duties. Metal likes rotations. Walking home with borrowed bands. I carried do not narrate someone else's apology past Cedar Lane. On the landing between 1 and 2, a couple rehearsed forgiveness without an audience. I wanted to officiate. I did not. I took step 17 with a patience that did not pretend to be heroism. The landing approved by being the correct height for the next breath. 2 small arguments with the bureau. I said, what about people who ignore the cards? The bureau said, we are furniture, not police. I said, what if a rule hurts someone? Anna said, we send it back. We have a drawer for mistakes. She opened a drawer labeled REPHRAS Gingy. Inside lived sentences with pencil edits that looked like mended hems. A society of amends. The drawer of bands we retired. Do not sit on the curb. Retired. The curb can be a chair. Do not talk to strangers. Retired. We prefer. Do not perform at strangers. Do not touch anything. Retired. We prefer. Do not touch without checking your motive. Do not cry in public. Retired. We prefer. Do not scare tears with sarcasm. A letter to my future self. Remember that the best rules are small. They fit in a pocket. They attach to a scarf without bruising the fringe. They do not try to renovate a soul in one afternoon. They ask for a posture, then a return. Also remember, you are not the bureau. You are a person who gets lost and then found, often on the same block. 17 practical bands I borrowed this month. 1. Do not cut in front of a stroller. 2. Do not assume the tram can see you. 3. Do not show the ledger unless asked. 4. Do not escalate a bell. 5. Do not use always. 6. Do not use never. 7. Do not teach during soup. 8. Do not hoard the return chair. 9. Do not wear headphones across a crossing that keeps forgiving you. 10. Do not type when your hands are theater. 11. Do not interrogate the barista's face for weather. 12. Do not make mail into ritual unless the letter asked for it. 13. Do not fight a hinge. 14. Do not relax into cruelty just because the room is dim. 15. Do not pretend silence is applause. 16. Do not collect other people's endings. 17. Do not forget step 17. A visit from David Blackwood. David brought a jar of screws and a folded sign that read quieter here. He placed it by the tray of keys and nodded at the cards. You are tightening the street, he said. Not with rules. With courtesy that remembers. He left with a card clipped to his sleeve. Do not fix what is only telling you a story. He laughed all the way to Cedar Lane's temperamental door. Willowbrook's ledger of borrowed rules. Tom keeps a small list under the cash drawer. Do not request sugar for news. Do not treat the line like a race. Do not audition for the chair. Do not film other people's patience. He stamps the list with coffee, not ink. It smells like mornings that chose kindness against their mood. A slight haunting, safe for bedtime. One evening a card appeared on the counter with no item attached. It read, do not speak your own name to the mirror until you have Saturday. The mirror above the hooks showed my face staging competence. I sat. When I stood, the mirror returned my face without the performance. The card faded by morning, as if rest were an eraser. Training a new volunteer. I showed a teenager the ledger and the clip drawer. We do not correct people, I said. We correct gravity. They nodded and inventoried pens like a quartermaster with ambitions of peace. Before leaving, they wrote a card in excellent pencil. Do not make stairs solve personality. We clipped it to the Cedar Lane page. David later underlined stairs with satisfaction. Closing round. A rule for closing. At night, we place a last card on the counter. Do not lock out the street's better self. We do not know who reads it. The block behaves. Coda for week 2. If you must choose between a rule that flatters you and a rule that lowers your volume, choose the second. Return it when ready.